Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. One of the segments from my hobby dinner, the second hobby dinner, the Saturday night of the Waters Creek Show. Some from out of town. Thanks sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Tops, Panini, and Upper Deck. Go around the table. We had the one giant microphone in the middle of the table, and I've edited this. You might recognize some of the voices. On my right was Eric Myers from Fanatics and Tops, done a bunch of different things. Next to him was Dave Slipka, longtime friend and colleague. Next to him was Mike Friedman, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, sponsor. Next to him was Shane Zager, came down from Iowa, been on before. Next was Jeff Liao, collector, loves unopened wax, as you'll see from his comments. Number 6 is Rich Klein. Needs no introduction, Uncle Rich. Next to him was Phil Pierce, coming down from Oklahoma City, the OU guy, among other things. Number 8 was Rob, a.k.a. Bobby Baseball, a friend and an advanced collector, inspiring how he approaches things in a fresh way. Number 9 was John Keating, here from the Philadelphia area, longtime friend, frequent guest on the podcast, original thinker. 10 was Court Peters, the blockchain guy from Panini. And number 11 was Jeremy J.J. Allen, who is the non-sport and entertainment guy at Heritage, doing a great job. And I was number 12, so we had 12 of us, and it was a great time, but it's difficult to get everybody a chance to speak. Each conversation was a little bit different, so here is one chunk of it. First topic from John Keating is the Contemporary Committee of Baseball. In 1 month, we're going to find out if Bonds and Clemens are in the Hall of Fame.
Or Mattingly.
Or Mattingly.
Don't know if he. Yeah, think about these guys from the 80s and 90s. They were Clemens, even Fernando, changed the sport very delicate times. There's a question, should they be in?
Who would you vote for? We know who gets the most hobby love. You guys have already mentioned them. Gary Sheffield, not so much. But his stats are as good as...
Well, Delgado.
And
those two guys are also rags. It's pretty impressive. Does anyone have the list of 10 again?
What? I didn't say
yet. Mattingly, Murphy, Fernando, Clemens, Bonds, Delgado, and Sheffield.
Jeff about Rose.
Jeff Tens.
Jeff, could we put Rose?
No, he's in the next
year
group.
after.
He's not
I don't care if non-professionals use steroids, whatever. That's their own personal thing. But when it gets brought into a profession, I don't condone it. I love watching Bonds. That was the most amazing of all sports I've ever seen my whole life. That into the 90s. That being said, I just couldn't, in good faith. I would love to see Bonds in, but there's got to be something just sacred. And looking at it in perpetuity, I just couldn't allow Bonds and Clemens and those tied to PDs in.
Sports of baseball is never been clean.
Agreed.
And the other thing with Bonds, he's a Hall of Famer before the steroids.
You've said about Clemens, too.
Yeah, but Clemens is more borderline. Clemens, to me, there's a lot of pitchers. I'm talking about pre-97. Yeah. His Red Sox years, there's a lot of guys like Clemens that are or aren't in the Hall of Fame. He's probably a Hall of Famer,
good.
But Bonds is a Hall of Famer before the steroids began.
Maybe.
Before. He was a 400 guy. Nobody else had ever done that. He's a Hall of Fame.
He's
a Hall of Famer.
Without ever going to San Francisco, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Here's the other argument. I just finished a small collection of 3,000 strikeouts and 301 club pitchers rookie. And one of the guys in there is Pud Galvin. This little guy, late 1800s. You go to ChatGPT or Wikipedia, this guy. He was taking something called monkey steroids in 1893 or whatever it was.
Really? I think that's generative AI.
Yeah.
Always
From my take is
GIGO.
this is personal for me because Brazen, my son, I don't allow my sons to look at, unfortunately, in my early age, I got in a lot of trouble. Just because I don't allow negatives to offset current negatives. Just because I might have done things in my late teens or early 20s doesn't allow in perpetuity for negativity to continue in my life or things that I involve myself in. Because at some point, once you do that, it's not a Pandora's box. Beyond that, it never stops. Once you accepted that perspective of humanity, because then at that point, you just refuse to clean anything up.
It's never too late to do the next right thing.
And that's my take. And as much as
that's your kids, that's great.
Yeah.
They mess up. It's not fatal. I hope it's not fatal.
Yeah. Man.
You pick yourself up.
It's part of being a man. It's part of being
part of baseball. Messing up 2 out of 3 times and still leading the league and hitting.
Because as you mentioned about Bonds, just do it the right way. You're going in the whole thing.
Yeah. But it's context. And I always say, context of the silent partner history, right? These guys were taking steroids to get better, to deal with the daily grind of 162 games, coast to coast travel, all that stuff. And it's not an excuse, but it's the hard facts of the season as it goes. Nobody says Mark McGwire came in the league and broke the rookie record for home runs in 1987. That's 12 years before we heard about his creatine and all that stuff. These guys turned to something. Clemens didn't need to get bigger. Clemens just needed to maintain his health. The bottom line, Barry Bonds had to hit a baseball. We can go up there, try to hit a baseball, come back 6 months later, if you juice him up, we're not going to hit that baseball any better. I'm not saying it didn't help him, but he was what he was well before steroids. He was going against guys throwing baseballs that were on steroids. We don't even know about all the also-rans that juiced up, and in theory would have had the same advantage as Bonds.
Yeah.
Well, there's Bonds very notably saw what happened in 1998 and frankly got jealous.
Oh, yeah.
Bonds was hurt in 1999 and then the numbers just went through the roof in 2000. And he wasn't the only one as far as the Hall of Fame thing. The committee that chooses these guys, they tend to get behind one person and it ends up being unanimous.
Yeah.
Based on the people who are on this committee, we can talk about Bonds or Clemens all day long. They're going to put people like Mattingly in. They're going to put people like Dale Murphy in. And that's just facts. They've done it in the past. The 1 year Tony La Russa was on a committee and what he did to the whole situation. Harold Baines, great guy. You don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. He was a classy guy and Tony always made sure he was on his team. But what you're going to find is it's likely going to be Mattingly and Murphy because
You had to pick one of the two.
if I had to pick one of the two,
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's the conversation, right?
I still believe Murphy undeserved one MVP. I still give Al over Rob with an MVP 1 year. So that's a whole different conversation with Al Murphy.
There's something about the sport of baseball. You can mess with football. You can mess with hockey. You can mess with basketball. No disrespect to those sports. But there's something about baseball that simply transcends it. To the dreams of the baseball movie. It's not a football movie.
I think you got to let Mattingly in because of just the attitude. Captain, working hard over and over. Either you're for the spirit of the sport, which he carried, or you're just for the records, regardless how you get there. You got to pick a lane.
If 94 doesn't have the strike/lockout, we could have a Montreal, New York Yankees World Series. And that is a tragedy. I mean, just think about what players would have gained, whoever won. And we might not even be arguing that. I mean, he could be in. And then the plethora of Expos players on that team, just incredible. That's a tragedy left out of the equation.
See, the beauty for collectors is you just collect these guys as if they're already in the Hall of Fame. My Hall of Fame collection has those guys in. My Hall of Fame.
both of those guys are collected as if they.
But does Bonds blow up if he makes the Hall of Fame?
That was the spirit of my question.
Yes.
Was these are hobby heroes.
In the last 6 months, his yards of sand increase.
Yeah.
If you go and look, his inserts, his refractors, that stuff's getting hot. You're playing devil's advocate, or steroids against the rules written in baseball. You'll have people say that.
That's the only caveat, because at that point in time, and I think baseball, you need a leader, and the sport should hold itself more accountable than the players. We don't talk about why was it legal in baseball. I mean, children shouldn't hold a parent accountable.
Now, you brought up the stride, almost destroyed baseball. You look at McGwire and Sosa in 98, and you tell me you didn't.
Everybody agrees.
You didn't know that Mark McGwire was on steroids. There's something wrong with you, but it saved baseball. Bob Costas was on TV every night celebrating. Every sports writer in America writing, making money for him. And then it flip sides when they get eligible Hall of Fame, all they do is
Turn it back.
negative, but they made so much money on Bonds, so much money on Sosa, McGwire. Companies producing headliners everywhere you
I don't think they were wrong in either case. I don't think they should have less celebrated them, and I don't think they should have less attacked them once we knew more than what we knew then.
I got so many phone calls because I was an unofficial spokesperson for Beckett about the McGwire-Sosa home run chase.
Oh,
My personal opinion is the two most qualified candidates are Bonds and Clemens, and the two who will probably get in are Mattingly and Murphy.
Yeah.
agreed. I agree.
Hypothetical question. If Bonds and Clemens had the personality of, say, Dave Ortiz and not, say, Kurt Schilling, would they already?
Oh, 100. I think so.
It would increase their chance.
I think if they were amiable, press-friendly personalities.
Derek Jeter.
I mean, you can't tell me Pudge Rodriguez, living in Texas, same time as Canseco.
Yeah.
Juan Gonzalez is my favorite player of all time.
Yeah.
Those guys were using.
I think
yeah,
most.
I'm just saying, if you look at them, they all look similar body builds. I
Stay
saw
away from the pitcher.
Juan play
It's that you
in
can't talk
Oklahoma
about that.
City.
didn't weigh much more than me in Oklahoma City, but 2 years later, the guy's an Incredible Hulk.
But wouldn't Jeff Kent be the safe choice here? Because Murphy and Manning have been kept out for so long. Why now? Just because of the lack of responsible candidates, when it seems to me that could open the door for Jeff Kent or shine more light on Delgado, who had a great career, cut short by injury.
Kent doesn't have the best reputation, and they're once again,
Cobb, Ted Williams, don't disagree who had a good reputation.
But Jeff Kent is not in the upper pantheon. If you're not in the upper pantheon, it doesn't matter what personality.
A lot of people would argue he's in the upper pantheon of second baseman in baseball history. I know it's a boring position.
The byproduct of the steroid era, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, created such a ridiculous bottleneck to begin with, which is why we're having this conversation. Right. Delgado's off the ballot in 1 year. Kenny Lofton was off the ballot in 1 year. Right. The reason we're even having this conversation is if there wasn't such a split vote for about the 6, 7, 8 year period, all these steroid guys were retiring, and only the no-brainers got in for 7, 8 years. Now we're debating tiers of Jeff Kent, and now. Isn't Fernando Valenzuela on the list?
Yeah.
That's an interesting case as well, because we are seeing, especially with pitching, the way it's changing now, where stat accumulators are no longer going to be a thing.
Yep.
Jacob deGrom might get in the Hall of Fame with 105 wins.
Crazy.
Yeah. Fernando Valenzuela could have been Shohei Ohtani in 1981.
Yeah.
He batted 300.
He could hit.
I don't know how he did it.
No.
Complete games, shutouts, and hitting. Nobody's comparing Shohei
too.
Here's a hot take. Fernando Valenzuela, the Hall of Fame should have a category called contributors. They're the only Hall of Fames that really don't have a contributor.
Follow Kurt Woodwin. Or Kurt Ford for the
That's right. Yes, but they don't really have a contributor. Like Buck O'Neill, who's in the Hall of Fame, should have been in as a contributor long before. Lefty O'Doul is a good enough player. He should be in the Hall of Fame for how he brought baseball to Japan. There's contributors. And Fernando, his stats are good at what he did for the Spanish community in Los Angeles, watching baseball, and then the Spanish community around the world. That's a contributor too. You can put him in both ways, and he's a worthy Hall of Famer as a contributor.
I'm thinking there's like a Sandy Koufax rule of take your 7 best years. And Sandy Koufax only had 7 years that were great, that they were super. Okay. That's why we're buddies, but yeah.
There's also a dimension of your character, how you play, not just the stats. Now, I'm going to go back to Mattingly. Yankees stayed committed. This is a very different way to play the game. You're committed to your teammates or not. You bring an attitude of positivity in the game. You get there early, you leave late. You want to see everyone succeed. The character you bring to the game is a lot.
That's it.
I'll take younger.
But
Major
the Hall of Fame
discount
for the Hall of Mediocre by that. Because Dale Murphy's a great guy, 2-time MVP. But how many 2-time MVPs are not in the Hall of Fame?
There's a couple.
There's a lot of collateral damage from the steroid era. We talked about all these other people whose stats were inflated who aren't on the Clemens, right? Yeah, some of these people.
Brady Anderson.
Brady Anderson hit 50.
And people that finished 6th, 7th, 8th in MVP, 40 home runs. It's just insane. But there's a whole slew of collateral damage of people we would be discussing more. And for me personally, I couldn't look at Bonds, even if he was allowed in the Hall of Fame, ahead of Hank Aaron. I could never do that because Hank Aaron did it while going through massive adversity and did it with probably the most classful way you could think of. He did everything right, was a consummate professional. In society, we need a sport like that to hang our head on.
Especially with all those people rooting against them.
Yeah, just you take everything together. And I think if I have to remove him from the tip of the spear and put somebody else up there, they need to do it that way. There's no substitute for that. And for me,
bottom of the 9th, 7th game of the World Series, tie game. Okay, you're the home team. And so you can pick any batter throughout history to lead off the bottom of the 9th of a tie game of the 7th of the World Series. Is there anybody better than Bonds?
No, absolutely not.
Because he would get on walk.
Yeah.
They would walk. So they're trying not to compare Ohtani to Barry Bonds. They're skipping ahead to Babe Ruth, which is not unreasonable.
You got to have the Ghost Runners on there. 3 Ghost Runners.
Yeah. Because obviously they would just walk in.
Reading Mike Kramer's book, adding to this conversation, he talks about 1993 when they got the Spanish baseball license and went to spring training to shoot headshots. And guess who didn't do headshots? Every player let him come through into the tent to take photographs. Guess who didn't do headshots? Because Pacific at the time, action shot on the front, headshot on the back. And he said, if you notice, every headshot of Bonds for any card company is a candid. In other words, means a long lens.
Yeah.
His head was not fully developed at that point.
We're talking 1993.
Yeah.
The steroids issue didn't pop for 5 years later. So a character of this individual clearly on display long before steroids. So
There's 1,000 jerks in baseball, man. We used to chase all of them. Yeah. Guys that don't sign for kids.
A lot of the guys that chase photographs are jerks too.
That's true. Have you seen the interview with Chipper Jones where he talks about Barry Bonds? Basically tells us he's the greatest baseball player he's ever seen. He's the greatest baseball player I've ever seen. I never seen Willie Mays. I was born in 76. You're young. I'm 50, almost rich. Wow.
You're old, Rich.
I know. That's what I said. But I get the character issues. I get the steroid era. I met Ernie Banks one time and I was wearing a Sammy Sosa jersey and he asked me, why are you wearing a Sammy Sosa jersey? And I told him, I said, hey, I'm a child of the steroid era. That's what I grew up with. And he and I talked and I don't know how you can have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose, Barry Bonds. There are a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame with character issues.
But they were defiant about it before they got in the Hall of Fame. That's the problem. Once you get in the Hall of Fame, you talk what we talk about. But Clemens especially, I'm pretty defiant.
Look at Ricky. You don't want to speak bad.
That's a dangerous
He got
topic.
from those late years. And Canseco said he was taking these go.
Oh, yeah.
So that supports that, hey.
Ricky in the third person?
Ricky would say,
Ricky going to take second.
I look at the punishment as a dad. If my kid knocks them off the table, I have to clean it up and I'll say, please don't do that again. If my child is walking with a fork towards an electrical socket, I'm going to respond at a far greater level. If you say guys like Pete Rose, if you say guys like Barry Bonds can't get in the Hall of Fame, it would be fine if it's an overreaction. But I think it's much like the fork. If you yell at your child and say, don't do that, at a great level, maybe he or they will learn not to do it. The hope is that keeping them out, perhaps we're helping maintain the integrity. If Barry Bonds can't get in the Hall of Fame, and if I do the things that he did, I won't get in the Hall of Fame. Whether that's employees or using law. Hopefully, by virtue of keeping them out, it will keep the steroids limited or out of baseball.